The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Kexthul raised his four-armed frame, the crystalline structures on his carapace pulsing with disdain. His species, the Velkari, had dominated space for 3 millennia with technology that bent reality itself. "These humans," he began, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into contemptuous words, "dare to request membership in our council with tools that belong in a museum. Observe." The holographic display materialized above the assembly, showing crude earth implements, hammers, wrenches, saws. The assembled delegates, beings of pure energy, cybernetic collectives, and ancient machine intelligences, rippled with what could only be described as cosmic laughter. "Primitive metallurgy," scoffed Ambassador Xyleth of the quantum hierarchy. "We transcended such crude matter manipulation eons ago." "Iron and carbon alloys," added the synthetic concordate's representative, its mechanical voice dripping with algorithmic disdain. "How quaint." Standing at the far end of the chamber, Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Diplomatic Corps maintained her composure. Her weathered hands, scarred from years of engineering work before joining the diplomatic service, remained steady, at her sides. Behind her stood Chief Engineer Marcus Thompson, a massive man whose tool belt seemed almost ceremonial in this place of floating crystals and gravity-defying architecture. "Honored delegates," Chen began, her voice carrying across the vast space, "we understand your skepticism, but perhaps you would permit a demonstration?" Kexthul's mandibles clicked in amusement. "A demonstration? Of what? How to pound metal? With a stick?" The chamber erupted in alien equivalents of laughter, harmonics that made the air shimmer, binary cascades of humor, and psionic chuckles that tickled the edges of consciousness. Chen smiled thinly. "Something like that." 3 days later, the demonstration was arranged in the Council's orbital testing facility. The Velkari had provided one of their older but still formidable warships, a sleek vessel 2 kilometers long, its hull composed of quantum-stabilized metamatter that could theoretically withstand the explosion of a small star. "This material," Kexthul announced to the gathered crowd of delegates and media drones, "exists in 17 dimensions simultaneously. It cannot be damaged by any known force in this galaxy." Thompson stepped forward, reaching into his tool belt. What he withdrew was absurdly simple. A hammer. Not even a particularly impressive one. 20 ounces of steel with a hickory handle, worn smooth by countless years of use. The kind of tool that had built Earth's first skyscrapers, repaired its first automobiles, and shaped humanity's journey to the stars. The aliens stared. Several recording devices focused on the primitive implement with the intensity usually reserved for supernovas. "You cannot be serious," Kexthul clicked. That thing predates your space age by millennia." 5,000 years, give or take," Thompson replied, hefting the hammer with practiced ease. "Been in my family for 6 generations. My great-great-great-grandfather used it to build bridges." He approached the warship's hull. The quantum-stabilized metamatter seemed to pulse with an inner light, reality bending slightly around its edges. Thompson raised the hammer. "This is ridiculous," Kexthul began. Thompson brought the hammer down. The ring of steel on metamatter echoed through the testing facility like a bell. But it was the crack that followed, a sound like reality itself, splitting, that made every delegate freeze in absolute silence. A hairline fracture appeared in the hull. Impossible, according to every law of physics the galaxy knew. The quantum-stabilized metamatter began to destabilize, its 17-dimensional structure collapsing into normal space-time. "Impossible," whispered Xyleth. "The quantum coherence field should have—" Thompson struck again. The crack widened. Again and again. With each blow, something more than mere metal met metamatter. It was the accumulated weight of human persistence. The focused intent of a species that had learned to shape the universe one strike at a time. It was the ghost of every human who had ever picked up a tool and decided that the world could be different, better, stronger. The warship's hull didn't just crack, it surrendered. A section 3 meters wide simply ceased to exist, leaving a perfectly clean opening that exposed the ship's interior. The silence stretched for what felt like. Finally, Kexthul found his voice. How? Thompson shouldered his hammer. You've got it backwards, Ambassador. You think tools are about the technology, but they're not. They're about the will behind them. We humans, we've been making tools for 2 million years. Not because we had to, because we chose to. Every time we pick up a hammer, we're carrying forward the intent of every human who came before us. Chen stepped forward. Your metamatter is impressive. It exists in 17 dimensions, but our tools exist in one dimension you've forgotten, the dimension of human determination. That's the synthetic concordance representative processed this for 0.003 seconds. That's not scientifically possible. Science, Chen replied, follows will, not the other way around. Ambassador Kexthul stared at the impossible hole in his supposedly indestructible warship. His crystalline carapace dimmed as his worldview underwent a fundamental restructuring. The humans, he announced slowly, are hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Council. And, he paused, his four eyes focusing on Thompson's hammer, we would very much like to discuss a technology exchange program. Thompson grinned and patted his tool belt. Well now, Ambassador, that depends. How do you folks feel about learning to use a screwdriver? The cosmic laughter that followed was different this time, not mocking but amazed. Across the galaxy, ancient species began to remember something they had lost in their pursuit of transcendence. Sometimes the most powerful force in the universe was the simple decision to try. And in the testing facility, a human hammer, older than spaceflight, simpler than fire, rested against a wall, having just redefined the possible.